Tribe Called Quest.
Yo. Okay, here we go. We're rolling.
Rolling?
And my name is Moshe Berserker. I'm sitting here with my boy,
Professor, a.k.a. Coach, a.k.a. Black Dragon, Professor Brandon H. Durham, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt.
And I have the honor and pleasure of having trained with Brandon on and off for the last decade and a half.
Yeah, man.
And now we get to train under his new company, Core Academy Jiu-Jitsu.
In Richfield, Connecticut.
And I wanted to kind of ask Brandon some simple questions. And so you guys get to know him and understand why training Jiu-Jitsu is so life-changing. And so, why don't you answer that question? How can Jiu-Jitsu change your life?
That answer, man, that's deep. It's a great question. It could be answered so many different ways. If I had to answer that today at this moment, it will be different probably next week and be probably different 6 months and then a year. But right now, the way I feel that BJJ has just changed my life recently was giving me purpose after going through this pandemic. You know, we had an academy, we had a situation where our business was turned off because of something that we had no control of. And I went through the last several months of thinking about different things I could do in life if I had to, because I wasn't sure if people want to do jiu-jitsu anytime soon. Especially in New York. You know, New York got shut down pretty hard. And so jiu-jitsu gave me a focus and a goal to reopen another academy, and it gave me drive, and I missed it, and I didn't feel the same without training. And you know, depending on what part of the country you live in, you had different experience during this last year and a half. Some people they locked themselves down and quarantined themselves, others didn't.
Yeah.
I know a bunch of people that train in different parts of the country that continue to train while this was all going on, and to each his own.
Yeah, I mean, all of our team, all of our guys, and you know who you are. We stopped training. We took care of ourselves,
Protected
our families.
Yep.
We made sure that we were going to be okay, so that when we were able to come back, we would come back stronger. And that's actually kind of exactly what happened. And it was really hard to believe that could happen during such a terrible moment in our lifetime, but we have this beautiful academy, and it's located in Ridgefield, Connecticut, which is a really small town, but
beautiful town.
But Brandon comes to the table with so much knowledge and experience and love for the sport that why don't you give us a little example of what to expect when you walk into our school?
The first thing you should expect is a really positive energy. Really positive energy, really positive people, a smile. I'm always watching and scanning the floor. You know, when we have classes going on and students are drilling, I get in the zone. You know how I get into a zone, and I'm very attentive to people's level of comfortability, especially because we have new people in class that just started training in the last couple of weeks, and we have some people on the mat that have been training for over a decade, like you.
Yeah.
So you know the system, you know the flow, and I love to make sure when a new person comes in, they get matched up with someone like you that has an understanding of jiu-jitsu, understanding of our system, the mindset that we have in class. We want jiu-jitsu to be a fun, positive, learning experience at all times. Every time you come to class, you want to feel like you've gotten something out of it, even though so many times you come to a class, it's a new technique or a new concept or a new position or a new mechanic that you've been training with me for, 13, 14 years.
Yeah.
And you're like, I've never seen that before.
Right.
Or you never explained that before. Or, it's not that maybe I haven't explained it. Maybe you weren't in that class at that time.
Right.
Or maybe I did explain, but I explained it differently, which is why I said just a few minutes ago, jiu-jitsu to me today
changes.
is going to change in a couple weeks, couple months. It depends on what experiences I have.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, I know your style, and I've studied with you for a really long time, and I was, at that, I was at that nervous stage to go and start something new that is this challenging, but it's amazing what happens after a few simple, consistent months in the beginning where you're just absorbing knowledge daily. And even what I'm starting to see is minor details and tweaks that I didn't have the eyes for, even just a few years ago. So, yeah, I mean, it's awesome to have this like new environment, and it's great to have this mix of advanced students and people just walking in.
Yeah, it's like having a coach built in to each class, because we always match people up according to. I do. I'm very aware of the floor, and I want everyone to learn. And that's. I want to go back to. Oh, that's the foot on the chair, guys. I want to go back to like how jiu-jitsu is such a great thing to have in your life, because we got this program going, and we met Sensei Wolf at Legacy Kempo Karate in Ridgefield, where we're doing our program out of now. But we met him through jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
we met
absolutely.
him because of jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely.
And the relationships that we have and that we develop and that consistently grow when you train together is just amazing. Like, I know my closest friends and the people that I speak to and I see the most are people in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is that we all come from very different backgrounds, and we have very different careers and hobbies, and we become a family that's bonded through this practice, and expect to like be welcome into that family, like when you walk in and you dedicate yourself to it. And what would you say you like to focus most on in classes in jiu-jitsu? What's important to you as an instructor do you want students to be confident? Do you want them to be competitors? Do you want them, like, how do you... So as a teacher myself, I try and look at the class and teach not as the group, but I like to break it down to the individual, to figure out what that individual needs to grow. And what I try and get out of them is like the best that they have to offer. And a lot of times they're nervous, they're scared, it's intense, it's uncomfortable at times. So like, how do you as a teacher sort of get the best out of them in such a unique and, difficult
environment?
Martial art.
Oh, martial art. I don't feel like it's difficult to speak to people through jiu-jitsu. It's like, it's different. If you took the same group of people, let's say you have a class with 20 people in it, right? And like you said, everyone comes from different walks of life and different backgrounds, different beliefs, all that stuff. And you put those same 20 people in a social setting where they're gonna have to just communicate and interact. They would interact so much differently than they do in a jiu-jitsu class.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
They would pick and choose who they want to associate with, who they like, who they think looks like, whatever triggers people socially is totally different in the jiu-jitsu environment in the academy, right? You have an instructor, you have a coach, you have a professor, you have a leader that if they understand how to teach and they understand people, and they're confident within themselves, then you have an awesome environment, an awesome mix. What you have is you have people coming in to seek knowledge. You have an instructor and a coach that, like for me, I just live, man. I thrive on being able to show someone what I've learned and what I know, to try and help them sharpen their skills and get better. And then when you see them keep showing up and they keep progressing and they keep getting better and they keep asking better questions and they keep growing and moving, it's so joyful that I think you guys feel that coming from me because I can't hide it.
Yeah. I mean, oftentimes you'll lose track of time.
Yeah, that is a flaw.
No, but yeah. What made you want to start training years ago? What was your initial motivation?
Which art are we talking about?
I meant jiu-jitsu. Because you came from a long. You've been doing martial arts since you were a child, kung fu, and I think you studied some taekwondo.
Yeah.
But like, what made after? I know you've done kick. I know you've done Muay Thai. I know you've done boxing. I know you've done some. But what was it after doing all of these martial arts, exposed to Krav Maga, I know you've studied that. So
Haganah.
So why
Israeli arts.
Why did you settle on focusing your entire life's career and passion on practicing jiu-jitsu?
Because I saw the UFC when Royce Gracie, like millions of other people, so many, like the world changed from the Gracie family. You know, back in the days before the UFC, the Gracie's in Action underground, you know, tapes were out where they had the challenges in the academy, and you know, I've always been a martial art fan. So when I saw Royce Gracie fighting in the UFC and they announced him as the skinny 6 foot, you know, 175 pound, 170, whatever it was, I think 175 pounds, right? I was like, that's me. We're the same size. And then I'm sitting there with my Kung Fu instructor at the time, and my Kung Fu instructor was just bashing Jiu-Jitsu. Like, that wouldn't work in Kung Fu because we use our chi and turn our elbow and lock our shoulder out and this and that. And I just, what happened was, you know, me being me, I said to my teacher, I was like, so why don't you go in and do it? And then I got the typical excuse of why he wouldn't go in, it wouldn't be fair to the others and blah, 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 blah. So from there, man, I just I didn't believe in how martial art training was as effective as a style like jiu-jitsu after seeing jiu-jitsu being tested against other martial arts styles. And all I said to myself was, I want to learn that.
Where was your first class? The first class you ever took that you walked in, white belt, white gi, where was it?
It was in my own Kung Fu school.
Right.
All right, you want me to tell you the story? This is how the story goes. This is how I got introduced to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. We had a Kung Fu school at the time. I was teaching Kung Fu and kickboxing.
In Mount Kisco?
And this is in, Bedford Hills.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right, Bedford Hills. Yeah. Bedford Hills in Westchester.
Right.
So we used to get like these industry trade magazines that get delivered to the school and on the front desk. And I walked in and I saw, one of the trade magazines, and it showed this guy with a purple belt on around his neck with like a black belt in his taekwondo gi, and Royce Gracie standing behind him, and it said like Royce Gracie Network is now coming to the United States or something like that. And I believe it was Jim Campbell was his name on the cover. So I read the article, and there was a phone number in it with this guy Mike Hogan, Royce's manager. So I'm like, I'm gonna call. I want to learn jiu-jitsu. So I called, and Mike picks up the phone, and he had like this weird like Brazilianish accent, right? And I'm talking to him and talking to him, and I'm asking him questions about how to get in the network and this and that. And he was asking me about my background, and I was telling him, and I kept thinking like this guy's Brazilian. I just assumed he was because Hoist Gracie Network, and why wouldn't it be a Brazilian guy as his manager? Turns out Mike wasn't Brazilian. I met him a couple months later, actually a couple weeks later. He turned out to be a really good friend. He was Hoist's manager, and he was my introduction into Jiu-Jitsu. He was a blue belt at the time. So what they did was they would host these introductory seminars and have one of their blue belts come up, or a brown belt or purple belt. But at the time, it was really like Mike and Hoist just starting out.
Right.
So I got in the Hoist Gracie Network. In the beginning, I think I was like one of 20 associations or networks at the time,
And that was around 2005 or 6?
No, that was actually June of 2002.
2002.
Yeah,
okay.
All right. So Mike Hogan came up and he did a seminar, and I had a bunch of students. I think we had like 20 or 30 students on the mat, our kung fu and kickboxing students, and Mike did the seminar. And we became great friends, like right away, hit it off. He lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Hoist would, stop at his house and do seminars all over the place and travel around. So this was June of 2002 that Mike came up and did the seminar.
So this would make it your 20-year anniversary of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practice.
Yep, 20 years. Time flies, right?
Yeah. All right.
So anyway, came up, did the seminar, hit it off. Hoist used to since Mike was Hoist's manager, Hoist spent a lot of time in the U.S. Not in the U.S., but in that part of the country, doing seminars and kind of popping out from there. So Mike invited me down to hang out with him and Hoist and go around and do seminars, and man, I got to meet my idol. It was surreal because I watched him in '93 fighting in the UFC, and I said to myself, I want to train with that guy one day, and wind up meeting him through this association, through this magazine that came in, Trade Industry Magazine. Did a little due diligence, made some phone calls, got into the association, and I actually started unofficially teaching classes as a white belt, and I wasn't allowed to say teaching, so we kind of had a club for the first few months until I got rank. And we were on the mat like every day doing morning and evening classes, training in the afternoon, and within the first few months I was doing my thing as a white belt. And at that time, I didn't have any kids, and I was able to travel and follow Hoist around the country. And 2 months later, in August, Hoist was fighting in Pride.
Right.
So Mike invited me out, and I flew out to Japan, and that's when I officially first met Hoist. So I met Hoist in Japan at Pride, introduced myself to him because Mike Hogan wasn't able to get in the country with some visa issues, this and that. So I flew out to Japan thinking I would meet my buddy to get introduced to Hoist officially, being in the network. And it didn't happen like that, but it was awesome, man. It was awesome. I met Hoist. I got to see fighters I've been watching on TV and Pride, and it was just, I've had some incredible experiences through martial arts, and this is another example of how like Jiu-Jitsu just formulates your life, man. The experiences are just amazing. I have so many great stories, and when I say stories, I don't mean hype stories. I mean like events that made a difference and made a memory that I just can't forget. So to me, it's like I'm telling you a story, but to me, it's part of my life. It's an experience. Like this trip going to Japan, meeting Hoist there to fight, and it was insane.
Many small examples or big examples of how Jiu-Jitsu can have an impact on not just who you are, but what you do.
Exactly. Where you wind up.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, what would you say was your biggest obstacle to overcome on your path to being you know, now a seasoned black belt, but throughout the whole process, what would you say, you know, you had to work the most on, or you had to focus energy on, or like, is there, or, you know, even if it was just, you know, battling injuries or you know, or age, but like, what do you, you know, what do you tell someone, you know, like, this is, from my experience, jiu-jitsu is one of the hardest things I've done in my life. And
It's challenging.
And I've done a lot of hard things, I think, but it's beyond physically challenging. It's also very, I think, one of the more mentally challenging things you could do, because not only do you need to make decisions and base things on instinct and reaction, but you also need to be physically capable of executing those things, which is, so, you know, for me as a beginner, you know, I got cooked a lot, and I think your experiences were different. But you know, was there something that you can think of that you really had to kind of overcome?
So many things, man. I have had several injuries just due to my career as a martial artist. You know, teaching every day. Like I've been going hard at this game for a long time. From the time I started, my first school was a kung fu school. You know, we did like 6 a.m. classes, and then we do morning classes for students, and then we have afternoon workouts for training for the instructors, and then we have evening classes. Then we stay after and spar. I mean, this is in my 20s. This is what you do when you're 20 years old.
Yeah,
something
sure.
you have, you know, energy for days. One of my biggest challenges throughout my entire career is like knowing how to rest. Not really being able to take the time off. Like, if you're a student and you get injured, you know, your instructor tells you, like, rest your body, take your time, you know, come back when you're ready. As an instructor, and that's your business, and being a business owner, you have to be on the mat.
You don't have that luxury.
You don't have the luxury of taking time off, as much time off as you need, you know. And I don't say this to scare people away, because most of the injuries that you sustain in jiu-jitsu are minor injuries, minor tweaks and things like that. But it's a contact sport, you know, and things do happen. And if you did jiu-jitsu the way jiu-jitsu was developed, you start doing jiu-jitsu from the womb.
Right.
You're playing jiu-jitsu, you're playing games, you're moving around, your body's acclimated to this stuff, and then by the time you're a teenager, you super limber, your body just develops into it. And then as an adult, you have this lifestyle. If you know anything about jiu-jitsu and like the Gracie diet and the food combining, like if you live that way and you train that way your entire life, you have minimal injuries, unless you go into becoming a fighter, and then it's unavoidable.
Right.
But if you just train and practice jiu-jitsu from like the way I'm raising my son's 4, and we play jiu-jitsu all the time. He doesn't even know it. He's been playing jiu-jitsu since he was a baby.
Yeah, same with mine.
Right. They crawl around. I block one way with my arm, and he has to work his way out. He'll scream. I say, oh, don't scream. Just put your head under. Move your arm. And he goes under, and he doesn't even know it, but he's been learning jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I've been putting my son in guard since he was born.
Right. He knows how to pass the guard pretty well now, right? So, yeah, one of my biggest challenges was learning how to rest, learning how to incorporate weightlifting and things like that, which I don't love to do. I don't love lifting weights. This is one of the reasons why I like martial arts.
Yeah.
You know, martial arts to me has always been, especially jiu-jitsu, has always been like the superpower, the super boost, the turbo on martial arts, because I've always been a tall, long, skinny, lanky body type. I've never been, you know, I'm never going to be big, powerful, strong guy that has the strength or the size to even intimidate. And that's always been part of my lack of confidence, you know, as a person, as a human, which is what made jiu-jitsu so appealing to me. Seeing that a smaller, you know, technically weaker person, like I can't bench press more than you, but I can control you and squeeze you. I know how to use the body, and know how to use jiu-jitsu to make you make you think that I weigh 250 pounds when I grab you.
Right.
You know, and control you. So that's what I love about the art of jiu-jitsu. And yeah, man, it's just really navigating injuries and cross-training, putting it all together. And yeah, like you said, I've been doing jiu-jitsu. It's going to be 20 years in no time. And the jiu-jitsu game has changed. You know, our science changed.
I mean,
Information's changed.
Yeah. I mean, well, you know, speaking of the accessibility to information, and for people to, you know, put their style out there for everyone else to see and to learn from, and you know, obviously it's constantly ever evolving, and that's, you know, that's sort of one of the great things that I've noticed in our classes these days is like there's still an evolution from where we started. You know, I wasn't there from the very beginning, but shortly thereafter, and the evolution's been really amazing to see and to be a part of, which is actually going to bring me to my last and very big question before I turn off this recording and see if it sounds any good. Mm-hmm. Is okay. So you started a new chapter. And in many ways, it's a I think it's a, maybe you don't see it, but I see it as a huge milestone. 20 years, new brand, new strategy. You're not where you clearly much more experienced. Where do you see it going in 5 years? How do you see the school? How do you see things structured? What's your vision?
I want to answer that in two parts. And the first part is, I don't want to skip over or avoid brown belt to black belt in my life, because part of what you just said, the evolution and the change and what you've seen, what you've experienced, is because of what happened from brown belt to black belt. All right. So up till brown belt, I trained under Hoist. My good buddy Jeff Gordon, man, Professor Jeff, I love that guy. He is one of my best friends, man. I talk to him every day. And we never, ever get tired of checking on each other and talking about jiu-jitsu and life and things like that. But Professor Jeff and I met through Hoist and in the Hoist Gracie Network. And Jeff moved on. He went to Pedro Sauer for a while, and who was a black belt under Hickson, right? And then he met this guy who's, I think he met Professor Tony Passos when Tony was a purple or a brown belt, Jeff said. I think it was a brown belt. And he just told me how good this guy was. And then Tony went on and got his black belt. So Tony Passos got his black belt from De La Riva and came here, started teaching seminars, I believe, and then, you know, opened up his academy and then started trying out these beasts. And Jeff luckily met him and did a private with him. And Jeff was telling me how great, you know, Professor Tony was for years. But, you know, I'm a very loyal person, and it was very uncomfortable for me to think about change, right? And going to change teachers when, like, for me, Hoist was like my hero, man. You know, when I started jiu-jitsu, the reason I started jiu-jitsu was because of Hoist Gracie. And, well, like I said, we're the same size, same weight. There was just so many things. I gotta take a sip of my drink. All right. So at brown belt, I was supposed to shortly, you know, test for my black belt, and man, I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't understand jiu-jitsu enough to even consider myself. Not that you're supposed to. The decision isn't up to me, and it shouldn't be up to you to decide on when you think you should be the next belt. But I just really, especially as an instructor, and when I started jiu-jitsu, the only black belts that I knew were like black belts from Brazil, and
right.
you know, So to me, I just knew I didn't know enough, and I didn't understand enough. And it wasn't about the moves and techniques. It was about being able to answer questions or understand the connection or just the positions better and understanding how to correct and how to teach. I just didn't feel like I was ready for the black belt, man. And again, like I said, you're not supposed to feel that way. Your teacher's supposed to tell you. But I wound up going and training Tony Passos. Excuse me, got a frog in my throat. And when I went down there, I went down to Sterling, Virginia, this little tiny pocket, and I just was amazed at the level of jiu-jitsu from white belt to black belt. Tony's presence, his ability to teach the I was just blown away. So I started training with Tony, and I kept going down to Virginia. He kept coming up every few months, and I just had so much exposure to a different style in conceptual teaching and training system, because Tony has a very competitive gym. He coaches some of the biggest names out there. He's very goal oriented, and every goal that he's set to get associated and become a sister school to Atos and Andre Lavon, develop a relationship with these guys, and the things that he's done help steer our jiu-jitsu in a different direction. So I started with traditional Gracie jiu-jitsu, like Vale Tudo style, MMA style jiu-jitsu in the self-defense. From there, transitioning to training with Tony for several years and being able to earn my black belt. It changed our ability to move and understand movement biomechanics and training and up the ante. So
yep.
It's just now we have this beautiful blend of jiu-jitsu, which is what I like to teach. I like to be able to address certain positions, understand like the sport aspect of jiu-jitsu, but stick to the traditional values of jiu-jitsu and merge them together, because I know how to strike. I like striking. I love sport jiu-jitsu. I love traditional jiu-jitsu. I love martial arts, and that's what we do in our classes, man. I think we get a really great flow of class and understand technique, and we have great people like you that show up and
So you think that you're gonna, in going back to, you think the future for you is to not. Do you think it will be creating your own philosophies, your own teaching methodologies? Is the future in your teaching? Obviously, it's a combination of things that have developed you throughout the years in your past and your lineage, so to speak. But do you think that now it's your time to sort of take in all these things and start a new, sort of like Brandon Durham umbrella of jiu-jitsu concepts?
I think that every academy, every instructor has their own style of jiu-jitsu, right? In a sense. And I don't want to say it like, if you get your black belt and you go open up your own academy, right, that you're going to have a different way of doing jiu-jitsu than what you've learned from me and from the guys that you started with in Brooklyn Jiu-Jitsu. But I have my own experiences, and I have enough understanding of jiu-jitsu and martial arts to be able to make certain adjustments in certain positions. But I don't want to make up a new style of jiu-jitsu.
No, not a new style. I mean, a new. Like I'm noticing. So I'm noticing in the way that you're in the way that you're teaching now is different in the way that you were teaching prior. When you were teaching prior, it was.
I can answer that question easy, bro.
Yeah.
It's because I'm going to be 50 in a couple of days. I'm older, man. Honestly, the year and a half off,
yeah,
I'm not in the same shape as I was last year. I've been sitting around for a year. I haven't, as active as I've tried to be during the lockdown. it's just not the same. I haven't been training. And, you know, my body's gotten tighter. We've been back on the mat for, 10, 11 weeks now? I'm just starting to feel like better. I know it's gonna take a couple. I'm 50 on September 4th, and I don't think it. And my body may not necessarily reflect it also, but I have a lot of mileage, on my joints. I've been, throwing hard kicks and punches and sparring for years and doing jiu-jitsu for years. And like I said, I've had, a couple injuries, and meniscus, ACL, this and that, collateral ligament, a couple things here and there. And it's not necessarily because I was doing jiu-jitsu, it's just because I've been an active athlete in my 40s. None of those injuries, none of those things happened until I was much older. And again, my week as a martial artist is training and teaching every day, 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week, doing private lessons or going to a seminar. So you don't necessarily have to expect to go through the same, trials. And that's part of my teaching concept now. Like you said, you've seen it change, because I'm trying to be a wiser man and a better teacher so you guys can avoid those mistakes. And for me, as a 50-year-old practitioner and not just a sideline coach, I like to be able to do what I teach. I can't do inverted jiu-jitsu and upside down stuff with my back and neck, but I can practice really good concepts on top game and play the guard to get back to a position where I'm not jeopardizing myself being stacked. And when it comes to teaching class, that's how I teach class. I look at what we need to learn as a group, what you guys need to work on, and then we work on it. But we work on it from I think a better, safer place. We're not 20-year-olds. I'm not coaching for 20-year-olds. And not to say we have 20-year-olds in class that can barely hang with the 45-year-olds.
True.
Why?
Because the 45-year-olds have good jiu-jitsu.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah.
So, you when you come in to learn jiu-jitsu from us, you're learning body mechanics, you're learning concepts, you're learning how to drill, you're learning how to move in a very progressive, safe way. Where especially for beginners, you're going to get enough resistance that you understand how to take advantage of people's imbalances and all the things that we do and all the positions that we play. But you're going to do it in a way that is comfortable for you, but you feel the reality of it. And I think that is very addictive to people when they feel like the empowerment that they can get through jiu-jitsu. Yeah,
Yeah, I think one of the, hardest things that people have to overcome is this, I guess it's a subconscious effort to put, 100% into every move or every drill. And actually, the way that we structure class is many times we train for 2.5 hours and we're moving the entire time.
Right.
We do not stop moving. If we do, it's to really dissect and learn something, but then we're right back into it. And I think for me, I think I get more out of moving and practicing for 2 to 2.5 hours per class rather than if I was going to go and roll for 60 minutes straight. So, and I think in some ways, again, I think when as opposed to, I think when rolling is a imperative part of the sport, you can't disassociate, you can't not roll.
Right.
But I think what people have to, or what we have to remember is, to start teaching people how to roll.
Yes.
There's a big difference in rolling and how you teach. I think teaching rolling is maybe something that's overlooked, and I've noticed that in recently, that's something that you've introduced. I don't know if you want to elaborate on on that, but
Yeah, and let's tie it all together because that will answer your question on where I see the school in the next 5 years. Right?
yeah,
So what I see in the next 5 years is Core Academy, and I came up with the name Core Academy because the core of Jiu-Jitsu, it is the basics, it's the fundamentals, it's the body mechanics, right? It's the concepts, right? The core. If you can't shrimp or if you can't do arm unders and work your core properly, you're gonna have a real hard time doing hip bump sweeps and everything, right? So we work everything into our system in a way that with your partner, when you're training with your partner, if they're playing offense and you're playing defense, you both are getting something out of it. And then we don't do counts, man. We do time drills. So maybe we'll for me as a teacher, as a coach, I'll designate 4 or 5 minutes of this drill and tell you guys to, make sure you keep switching back and forth every few rotations. This way I can go around and make corrections or adjustments, and then you get the flow. You get to start, you break the sweat and you keep moving and stuff. So I want everyone that comes through Core Academy to understand the core values of Jiu-Jitsu, the mindset, the fact that everyone can be good in Jiu-Jitsu no matter what your body type is, what your personality is, right? Yeah. If you listen to like what Hoist would say, what Hickson would say, and what like Tony would say, and I mention those guys specifically because those guys are all such masters of the art of jiu-jitsu, especially in their own way. But they all say the same things, man. It's like you have to learn how to pull when being pushed and the right angles and this and that. So what I take from that and what I want to give back is my experiences with all those instructors, all those black belts, all the different types of jiu-jitsu, bring them into our Core Academy. The foundation of jiu-jitsu is body mechanics, is like movement and breathing and being in good enough shape that you can survive, and then build it into an academy that has an intermediate advanced class where you will be rolling more, but you're not rolling till you're ready. Really focus on self-defense and teaching people how to deal with strikes and not just pulling guard and thinking about jiu-jitsu, on the concrete versus the mats is a very different game.
Practical jiu-jitsu, sport jiu-jitsu, theoretical jiu-jitsu.
Right. It's all great jiu-jitsu.
It's all great.
It's time and place for everything.
Yeah.
And I like to differentiate that stuff in class,
right.
And I understand enough about the differences of them all
to point them out.
So yeah, that's what I want, man. Core Academy, core foundations, great core people. Just everyone makes class better because we have such great people and everyone's there to learn, and I just love to teach. And my goal is to develop, guys like you, because I don't know if you realize this, but you're becoming a coach every time you come to class.
Yeah, sometimes started feeling it more recently, but
because we have new people. That's why we have brand new people.
Yeah.
And more experienced people on the mat. Because back in the days when we had the old academy, if we have 20 people on the mat and 2 or 3 new people came in, you may not work with the new person that day.
Right.
But now, you have to. Because I only have 4 or 5 of my old guys in, and we have so many new white belts on the mat that you guys are forced to be coaching, which is reinforcing your jiu-jitsu. And I listen to you and I make corrections when I have to, but you guys know the system well enough.
Yeah. I mean, it's repetition, and it's years of knowledge that you have to be able to regurgitate at times, or else, the team doesn't get better altogether. So.
My goal is to develop coaches, man, and be able to have people that can articulate jiu-jitsu well enough so that when they speak about it to their friends, hopefully they can create more interest. And if more people are doing jiu-jitsu, man, it just makes life better. So to tie this whole thing up, this is like Moshe and I just sitting here shooting the breeze, right? And keep it clean, G-rated. But we just want to talk about jiu-jitsu. We had a plan to go for like 5 minutes, for new people.
I don't know how long we went, but I think it's cool from my perspective to be able to, talk to Brandon, not just, as an instructor, but also how he feels about the practice of jiu-jitsu, and then for myself to keep motivated, because I'm not done. I've got the rest of my life to train. I've dealt with a fair amount of like battles as a 43-year-old guy with injuries and surgeries, and from jiu-jitsu, and mostly from life, and my desire to abuse my body in more ways than one, and snowboarding and surfing and glass fabrication and welding, and so I for me, this is exciting, and I hope we'll do this a few times, and who knows where it'll go. We'll put it out there, but if you are hearing this, then come check us out.
Yeah.
At Core Academy, BrazilianJiu-Jitsu.com.
That's right. No, Core Academy BJJ.com. Yeah, Core Academy BJJ. Yeah, this is like, if this is someone new that is thinking about coming down to our academy, I hope this inspired you to want to come learn jiu-jitsu with us, or wherever you are, go learn jiu-jitsu. And for the people that have been training for a while with us that maybe didn't know
that we're up and running again.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we're back. Come down. Hopefully we'll see you guys on the mat. And all I can say is, Mosh, thanks, man. This was fun.
This was fun. Yeah. I think we're gonna we're gonna do this again.
Yeah. If we keep doing it, hopefully it'll get better.
All right.
All right, guys.
Peace.
Sign out.